Welcome back, everyone, to the new session. Uh, Today, we are going to cover styling the components in React and multiple ways we can style the components. Uh, so, I have created a small app for us, and I'll provide the code for this again once we're done with the class, so you guys can play with it as well. What this application is doing, it is essentially displaying two different blocks. One is user profile and then my blog post. Now, traditionally in React, uh, and we have seen this a lot in our previous classes, we have imported a CS style class directly into the uh, component by doing import and then giving the uh, name of the style file. So CSS file, as we call the styles which are written in CSS files, or if you are using SCSS or less, then they'd be different. But for purposes of our course, we are using CSS right now. So let's look at the app.css file. We have never looked at closely what goes inside app.css till this point. What I'm telling app.css is I want my body to have a background color of F, which is white. This is essentially white color. FFF is the white. You could easily say this is instead of FFF, you could see white as well, and it would be the same. Uh, and then display the items in a Flex container, which is I would recommend all of you to read deeply about Flex because this is going to be very crucial for you guys. And then in my Flex container, justify the items, which is content in center. So let me just first delete this and see how. So our app has this user profile and blog post at the center left. Now, once I add the style, let me add the back, edit back. Our background color changed to white, and the user profile in my blog post became center. So this is how we have been traditionally using the style in our React components. There is a crucial concept of a precedence in styles where what style gets applied when matters a lot, and that gets decided by the order in which styles are received. What do I mean by that? So let's have this same style twice, one at center and one at end. So in React, it matters a lot that which style comes after which one, and also CSS selectors matter a lot as well. So if you guys want to make a note of it, I would recommend to sort of take a note of how the CSS selectors impact the style, and read upon it because that's going to be another crucial aspect when you guys work with the real world React applications. So that's why CSS is known as cascading style sheet. What does that mean? So in this order, uh, we could have had this kind of three different things uh, for same style. But whichever, so these are cascading down, and whichever style gets uh, comes at the last, that gets the precedence over other styles. So if I save this and I go back to my app, my content are moved to the end, which is in this case absolute right. If I had removed this, it would come in center, and if I had removed this, it would come in the start. So remember this core concept because it's going to be very critical to understand the next topic in the style. Let me move this to center again. So now our content is in the center. The next, I want you guys to look at how our app.js is bringing in these two components, blog post and user card. Now, if I go to blog post, there are two classes used here in the blog post, card and title. Same classes are used in user card as well, card and title. But how I'm differentiating that it's a blog post versus user card is through their styles. I'm telling that the color should be blue for user card and the background should be white background. And for the uh, blog post, the background should be gray background and the color should be red. But what is happening? We don't see the red color and the gray background. We are seeing only blue and the this light color that we see. Why is that? Well, that is due to the exact reason we just saw with the aligning the items. If you look at closely, both of these components define same styles. A style on a card and a style on, if you look at here, they define the style on same things, a card and title. And because card and title are defined, uh, whichever comes the last, it takes the precedence. And due to that, that whole ordering of styling, our code gets messed up and only one kind of style gets applied. To see that in action, let's do one thing. Just change the import order. So I will import user card first now and then blog post. And now everything is red and black text. That means respective components are not taking their own styles, but only one generic style which comes later in the design gets applied. So if you look at how do you verify that? Well, if you look at our net debugging tool in network, go to element and select the red text, you right click and inspect. You see the title has two definitions, font size 20 and color red, and font style blue and color, and font size 24 and the color 20, color blue. But the blue has crossed out on it. That means that style has been overwritten by the new style of red and 20. How do we solve this issue? Well, to solve that issue, that's where uh, CSS modules come into the come into the picture and they help us solve the issue. So to define a CSS module, and CSS modules are really a unique property to our code compilers like build tools and code compilers like White or Webpack. We have to do one thing is we have to do first tell that this is not a pure CSS file, but it's a module file. So let's do this module.css. And before I do that, if you look at this, the H2 has a class which is title. As whatever we define in our code, that class is getting appended here. Uh, and let's do the same for this one, module. And now we have to change import since import, this statement changes a little bit. So I will not remove this for your guys learning, but I will have the module.css. And because we have not modified this, we can use this. So now instead of just giving card, we set style.card, and let's remove this. Copy this one. Style.title. And let's make the same modification in the blog post. Uh, so we are going to copy actually. Let's copy this one and comment this one out. And paste it, rename this to module.css, import style from, and class name should be style.card. Now let's refresh our code. Sometimes if it doesn't work, we might need to restart our write or webpack, but that's okay. But now after modularizing our CSS, we see both the components have their own different style. The user profile has gotten its blue color and the blog post has gotten its red color. And if you carefully observe let's select this user profile text, it no longer says the class is title. It says title and then some random characters. This is added by the our white build tool to create the class unique. Very similarly, if you see title and then something random 15. So this is how you can use CSS modules uh, to uh, sort of scope your style and prevent your styles from getting overwritten and have the have this kind of a unique look and feel to each and every of your components. Any confusions here? If not, let's move on. Next topic is what we call the styled components in React. And to use styled components, we can use a library. We have to use a library called styled dash components. It's a convenient name. So in your new project, you will have to do something like npm install styled component and then start your project. So let's look at what's happening with the style while this installs. Um, Once you import styles in your component, it allows you to create something called style dot, and then you give your actual HTML element name or your component name. Uh, Here we are saying style dot button will have background colors of blue or gray, a secondary color white, and other good thing it allows you to do is nesting of your styles. So what we are telling here is when I hover over my button, the opacity should be reduced to 0.09. Yeah, this is done. So npm run tab. And it has a direct access to the props of the component. So that's the part I like the most is it has the direct access. So if you look at here, it has direct access to the props of your button. So if you see, based on the variant, we can change the background color. So this variant is nothing but a prop. Similarly, size is another variant which we can define a large button. Based on that variable's value, we can make the button large. So this styled components allow you to create uh, different kinds of HTML elements and components, React components, based on the properties that are provided to them. And this makes your styling code more streamlined and more efficient. So let's look at some other example by the time this loads. Uh, Based on prop, we can change. We can even use uh, a kind of a function, kind of a notation where we say for a danger button, a button which is of a type danger button, we are creating a new component, danger button. It will have style of button, but the background color will be red. So this is another opportunity that style components provide. Besides accessing the properties, we can actually use this kind of theming of your buttons, and we can create entire new component like this, where we are saying that it's nothing, card is nothing but a new component, which is nothing but essentially a div with some box header. And within this div, you can define a nesting elements. So inside this card, every H1 will have color of 333, and every P tag will have color of 666. So otherwise, any H1 will be not impacted. So style components allow us to actually create new components and create subsequent sort of styles for the components as well. So let's import our style component and let's see how it looks. You see, so this is a button. This is also a button. This is also a button. And based on the property that we gave, so let's go to our style component again. Based on the property we gave, so first is primary button. We told it's a variant, it's a primary. Then we told second button the size is large. And on the third button, we created the special component, danger button, utilizing the style of button only, but changing the background color to red. This way, styled CSS is allowing us, style components library is allowing us to create styled CSS and reuse our CSS files and CSS code over and over programmatically. Any confusions on this nice little library? Any confusions? If not, I'll move on to the next topic. CSS is, we are breezing, I feel like we are breezing through the CSS topics. So if you guys should stop me if you have any confusions, okay? So we saw that we could use the basic CSS in our app.js by importing the app.css file. Then we saw the CSS module in the user profile in the blog post component and how modules can help us sort of distinguish between two different classes of same name. And then we saw the style component library, which allows uh, creation of uh, themed React components based on properties that we provide to them. So moving on to our next topic is something called SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics. So SVG is a new, or not
Excuse
new,
me, I have a question.
sure.
Uh, so how we can keep our component clean? Because if you add a lot of CSS like style components, or for example, like Tailwind, if you add like class names, our code of component, it you know, get a lot of code and like look like messy codes, how we can keep it clean, you know, keep
So,
the style separate from the logics.
for sure. So first and foremost, that's a good question, right? So we tried to do too many things for this uh, classes learning. Is we created the card as well as button as well as danger button inside the same component. Ideally, you should not be needing to do this many things. We two, three, we did line 30 or 39, 40 line of CSS. Ideally, you should break your component into smaller components because the button, right, for example, it's going to be uh, unique to your entire application. So you're going to reuse the button over and over. So if you're using style components, then you should definitely look to break your main component into smaller components. And otherwise, you can do the CSS modules as we saw. Uh, and in the future lectures, we will look at probably SCSS as well. So SCSS also helps you to create something very similar to style components while keeping your CSS code more cleaner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
No problem. So thank you for your question. So feel free to ask any questions you guys have, okay? So going to SVG. SVG is scalable vector graphics, which allows us to create unique elements like a circle or a rectangle or a polygon or a line without needing too much CSS. We could have drawn a circle or a rectangle using CSS and HTML as well, and it could be fun exercise if you guys want to try. I'd suggest you guys try if you have some free time. But SVG allows us to do the same using the SVG elements, and we can use the SVG inside our React component. So let's import our shape component in our app.jsx. So import shape component is here. You see, we created a circle and a square, which is nothing but a rectangle with equal sizes, and a triangle using SVG. Now, if we had to do, let's go to our um let's say blog post, So if we had to create a circle, so let's div, and then let's call it as class style dot circle, and let's I'll show you guys how you could have created a circle using pure HTML and CSS. So let's say you would give height of 100 pixels, width of 100 pixels, and border. Let's say we want contact with solid green. So now, if you see, we will get some sort of if this is saved, did I save blog post? So in my blog post, I have this round. Let me try to move the blog post a little up so you guys have better way to see this. In my blog post, I have the square box. So I draw a perfect square like this, and we could have given a background color to this. So let's I typically, when I'm working with this kind of elements, I directly go here and try to modify it here. And background color, with a green only. So we created a perfect green square like this. And now guys need to understand how a square is drawn. And, and if I needed to convert this to a circle, border, we'll have to provide a border radius. Border radius. Where is my border radius? If I do this much style, then a square gets converted to a circle. Now you have to remember all of this and then do it like this. Very clean way to do this and very efficient way to do this is using scalable vector graphics or SVG. Now, if I go here, you see, I am defining a circle the way a circle should be defined. So I am telling that circle should be on the x-axis on the point 60, on the y-axis on the point 60, and of radius 30. So I am now defining a circle by property of a circle, mathematical properties of circle, rather than trying to figure out how to draw a circle like this using CSS. So that's why I suggest to learn about how different shapes are drawn in an SVG. And one of the big advantages of SVG is you do not need to import a lot of images in your application. Instead, you can just use SVG to sort of draw all of these kinds of different shapes. So any confusions on SVG and why we need SVG and what problem it solves? You see a lot of charts or line charts or bar charts on the popular libraries like, let's say, pie charts, right? SVG is highly used in this popular libraries, So high chart is like one of the um, interactive libraries. Like this is again drawn by SVG. You see how cool patterns can be drawn using SVG? All of this is, and look at this. So again, it uses SVG underneath to draw all of this cool stuff. So SVG is a very big thing actually in the not just React but overall the software development. I definitely encourage you guys to read more and learn more about it. So with that, we covered all four of our topics we wanted to cover today.